Hi, I'm Dylan Cox for Secondsout.com, and this is the first episode of my new weekly video blog talking about fights that happened recently, fights that are gonna happen, and all the news from domestic and world boxing. So where to start for this episode? Obviously the big show from Wembley last night. Behind enemy lines, Frank Warren's final show of the season, headlined by Derek Chisora versus Malik Scott. Derek Del Boy Chisora is going to be facing Deontay Wilder a few months back, but unfortunately for whatever reason it was in the end, Wilder didn't manage to come over to the UK for this fight. We got a great replacement in Malik Scott. And Malik Scott has been pro since 2000 and he's been talked about, and there was all this talk that he was great in the gyms. He's been sparring, around champions for a long time. The guys like Lennox Lewis back in the day, he was sparring him, and there was this sort of hype around him, but it was very, very low on the radar. But he's come over here and suddenly he was being touted as one of the best pure boxers in the heavyweight division, slick, skillful, and to an extent he is, but he's been pro for 13 years, and his best test in those 13 years, although he had 4 years out, in those 13 years his best test was Charles Shufford, past his best Charles Shufford. So why hadn't Malik Scott stepped up to this level before? He'd drawn in his last fight against a very accomplished amateur in Glasgow. He's just one of those fighters that maybe just hasn't had the opportunities because he's not been, for want of a better phrase, sexy enough. He's not being appealing enough for fighters. But Derek Chisora took him on, a guy that no one wanted to fight, I guess. Chisora had a lot at stake. It was a great fight. It was settling into being a really good fight. And the first few rounds, Chisora was pressing, Scott was boxing. There was some very quick hands from Scott, landing some nice long-range uppercuts, left hooks at the top. And Chisora going to the body, getting his man against the ropes. And it was just heating up into this great fight. And as you would have seen if you watched the fight on Box Nation, or you watched it live at the arena, or you've watched it today on YouTube or on a recording, you would have seen that it ended somewhat controversially, and I think it was controversial. I mean, I was there just a couple of rows behind when it happened, and I saw, Malik Scott go down from an overhand chopping right, one of Del Boy's sort of favourite shots, sort of maybe clipped him high on the head or the top or the side of the head. I don't really know, I didn't really see it properly. Down goes Scott, looks at his corner, famous trainer Jesse Reed looks at him, gives him a nod, looks back, the count's already at 9, he's up. It's over. I think the referee was right in calling it over, but to me, Scott looked clear and coherent and looked like he could have continued. People are saying he didn't want to continue and he didn't complain, which is true, but I don't know if he didn't want to continue. I mean, he looked to be doing okay in the fight, and Ross Abner, the other cornerman for Scott and well known in the fight game, working with fighters in Canada, both pro, amateur, and rival boxing gloves and equipment is his company. Ross was there and he gave, both barrels verbal abuse, just a tirade of abuse to the referee about it. His man was up at 8, shooting off. He was going mad, and the real anger. And I can understand to a certain extent, but I felt sorry for the ref. Yeah, no complaints from Scott. He just seemed to be praising Derek's abilities and punch power, and Derek seemed, happy with his performance. Interestingly, afterwards, he said he was nervous about this fight. Frank Warren, interestingly, said that he was the person who wanted this fight. Derek wasn't sort of asking for it, and Frank put it to him, and Frank said, I believe in you. This is, if you're right on the night, you can do a number on this guy. And next, Frank's talking about Deontay Wilder, the Bronze Bomber, maybe getting that fight back together for September, for Frank's big show on the 21st of September at the Copper Box Arena. So if Derek can get on that, it'd be good. He'll be vying to fight someone highly rated, because this is him back in the picture, hopefully. And I like Derek. I think sometimes he's a bit misunderstood, but you can't knock the man with the amount of fights he's had and the guys he's fought. Klitschko, Helenius, Tyson Fury. He hasn't looked great in all of those fights, but he's fought them, and he's willing to keep testing himself, and he's not going to have any of these marking time fights. So let's get behind Del Boy. That's what I'm saying. So yeah, talking about the show in the Copper Box, Billy Joe Saunders, he got through his test last night and will be facing John Ryder, who was fighting last week on the whole bill and got through in a, I think, second round stoppage. Billy Joe Saunders went the full 12 last night with a tough in game and economical, I guess, Gary Spike O'Sullivan. O'Sullivan didn't throw a lot. He marched forward, high guard, got off some shots, took a good punch. Billy Joe was throwing flash combinations, showboated at times, looked very relaxed in there, took a few breathers here and there, I think, because it was his first sort of 12 rounds at a pace, and he did well, he looked good. Maybe not as much venom in his punches as some believe he's got. And Spike O'Sullivan, interestingly, didn't look too marked up after the fight, but it was a good fight. And in the 11th, O'Sullivan seemed to buzz, maybe not hurt Billy Joe, but buzzed him a little bit. and was unfortunate to not really get more than a round on any of the judges' scorecards. I think it was 120, 109 on two and 119, 110 on the other, and I think that's probably not a fair assessment of how O'Sullivan performed, because I think he won, on my card I think he won 2 or 3, so I think to just give him 1 was probably slightly unfair, but still Billy Joe won that clearly, and he can move on to a good fight and hopefully keep this momentum going. He'll be confident of beating Ryder, I'm sure, but Ryder may have seen a few things last night that will give him some hope, so it's going to be a great fight at a great venue, and if Derek Chisora or Deontay Wilder's on that card, going to be a great night. Frank Buglioni on the undercard last night didn't look great against Kirill Psonko from Lithuania. Psonko's been in with the likes of Chelo Renda, fought in Britain. Not a bad fighter. He's fairly limited, but he gave Buglioni something to think about last night. Buglioni won 79-74, so only lost a round on Bob Williams' scorecard. I think he made hard work of it, and I think he got caught more than he should have done. Psonko landed a few good shots and some good right hands, and Buglioni maybe didn't give him the respect he deserved, but I like Buglioni. There's something about him I like, and I think it's he's measured, he's cold, he has correct shots, he's got posture and form in the ring, he fights very correctly, and I think that will carry him through, but he needs to make sure that he tightens up the defence and treats each opponent with the level of respect they deserve. I mean, I'm not saying he overlooked this guy. He was doing some good body work, and Frank Warren was shouting from the side, work the body, and then he seemed to ease off a bit. And I don't know if he was just sussing things out a bit last night, Buglioni, but it wasn't his best performance, but definitely nothing to be worried about. And you need those kind of tests, and having them this early is probably a good thing. So another former Olympian on the undercard, Bradley Saunders, who got the job done in 5, and Bradley's looking good. He was accompanied in the ring by the name escapes me, but it's a gentleman who won the X Factor here last year, celebrity, if that's the right word, in the ring with him there afterwards. So it's all good to increase his sort of fan base and stuff. And he's a good boxer, Bradley Saunders. And I think this next 12 months we'll see if he can step up another level. A good show on the whole, and I think a good way to end the season for Frank Warren and Box Nation. And I think it's been a tough season for other boxing promoters outside of the Matchroom Sky agreement. That's been obviously the sort of focus of a lot of fans' discussion, is whether that's a good thing, a bad thing, a great thing, a thing. It has had a knock-on effect to guys like Frank Maloney, Mick Hennessy, people like that who struggle with dates with broadcasters. Hennessy's obviously managed to get some fights live on Sky, Channel 5. Maloney's done some stuff for Box Nation. Hatton, similarly was sort of like edged out, and his own TV production company was struggling a little bit, I think. So it's been a year of transition, but Sky have had some good shows. Obviously peaked with Froch Kessler. Box Nation has some exceptional shows, but Box Nation has also shown some quality overseas cards, and I think that's really where it's found its sort of market. For a tenner a month, I think people can't complain too much. Frank Warren does put on deep stacked cards, whether they're on pay-per-view, whether they're on Box Nation, whatever. He's always been a believer in putting on a big stacked card with good fights on it, and I think rightfully so. The doubters will say he had to and he needs to, but Eddie Hearn has put on some good shows. I think by his own admission he's put on some average shows, and some of his fighters haven't shone the way that maybe he wanted to. Some of them have done really well. It's just been one of those kind of seasons, and I think from September onwards we'll just see how it pans out. I do have my sort of question marks over whether the Matchroom stable is just getting so ridiculously big that Eddie will. I've spoken to Eddie numerous times this season. He's such a great promoter in the sense that he can convince you that there's no wrong in what he's doing. And I'm not saying there's something wrong, but it's more the fact that he could trip up. There could be banana skins out there for him, in the sense that he's got so many fighters. You've got to keep each of them happy. You've got to keep each of them busy. You've got to get each of them the right shots, but you've got to build them. But you've got to give them the right fights at the right time. This isn't often remembered, that Eddie Hearn isn't just boxing. Matchroom isn't just boxing. And, he's very involved in the boxing, but they've got darts, pool, all this other stuff they do. Is it just a bit of a dalliance? Is it just a bit of fun? Is it just a bit of, we like boxing, so we're going to do. After this 2 years, if Sky say, okay, Eddie, it's not quite working out, we'll cut down your shows. We'll Matchroom go, well, actually, we're not. It doesn't affect us that much. We'll just move on. Whether it's like that or not, that could be just completely made up by me. But I think there may be, it might not be all plain sailing for Matchroom next year. But if the big fights happen, the fight fans will be happy. Although they have to subscribe to 2 channels if they want the best of both worlds, they will be getting big fights. Cleverly, Kovalov is a big fight. That's a massive fight. That's Frank Warren throwing his guy in the deep end with Kovalev and Kovalov, or Kovalev, sorry. And yeah, he's thrown him in the deep end. And I think Cleverly's like 24, 26 maybe. and he's fighting this guy that no one really wants to fight. I know Kovalev's like 30 or something, but it's kind of like different level, obviously. But Timothy Bradley fighting Provodnikov. What do you gain from that fight? Because you beat the guy, and he's like, well, how good was he? And how good is this Kovalev? And I think we'll see. Fair play to Cleverly, fair play to Frank Warren for taking that fight, a tough fight. And if Cleverly gets through that, then who knows? You might see a Cleverly Stevenson's Tavoris Cloud or Bernard Hopkins, or even Chad Dawson fight. You never know. You've got Tony Bellew though on the other side, on the Matchroom side. He's going to be looking at that Stevenson fight. Stevenson, I think, is allowed voluntary against Cloud in the meantime, but that's a good fight. Hopefully Bellew can do something in between. If there is a wait for a fight, you can just get a little fight in between or something. But these are good fights for the new year, And then you've got Barker versus Gill, that's coming up. We're going to be talking about that in the next episode. 2013 season comes to an end. It's been fun. We got to talk to a lot of promoters over the year here at Secondsout. We got to talk to a lot of boxers. We got to talk to a lot of people inside the sport. We're always keen to hear your feedback, so if you want to comment on the video, obviously tell us who you'd like to see us interview, what you'd like to see, what you think of the quality, what you think of the questioning, what you think is good, what is bad. We're open to take on all kinds of feedback, and we're looking to build our channel to get more content for you guys. And I'm hoping to get some other guests, some boxers, some promoters in on the show, either via Skype or here in the studio. It's my lounge, it's not a studio. From small acorns do great trees grow, or something. So I don't know what the saying was, but you get the point. So probably a little less of that weird banter, but yes, we'll be back next week. Please do tune in. Remember to like, share, and comment on the video. Yada yada yada. Yeah, keep safe, fight fans, because it's coming to the end of the season. We've only got a few fights through the summer to keep us going, but then boom, we're back in September time, and it's massive fights. Yeah, so that's it for this first episode of my weekly video blog. Sorry if it's rambled on a little bit, but there's a lot to cram. Next week we're going to hopefully, like I said, have some guests in here and on Skype hopefully, and we're going to be talking about some of the latest news in the world of boxing and a more comprehensive review of Matchroom's first year with their deal with Sky and Box Nation's year as it was, and just have a little look at the other promoters, how they've been working, and what shows happened in the last 12 months. So thank you very much for your time and watching. Please do like, share, and comment on the videos. We appreciate any comments, and I'll see you again next week.